Part 66. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 651. Chapter 651 The Anxious Mrsger. The third princess' eyes lit up when she heard this, but then she hesitated. But I've never run a shop before, I don't know how to open a shop. Baolei smiled and whispered, opening a shop is actually easy, just look at the account books occasionally. I have been good at this since I was a child. I will teach the princess a few words when the time comes. If the princess is impatient to do it, I will help the princess to ensure that the business is prosperous so that the princess can show off with the emperor. Although the shop is a partnership, Princess Kangol is too timid to compete with the princess. These words spoke to the heart of the third princess. She didn't care whether the shop made money or whether the business was good or not. But she will be happy if she can take away the things of the bumpkin girl. You rob my father's love, and I will rob your shop. Okay, let's do it like this. I will prepare a good birthday gift, make my father happy, and seize that bumpkin's shop. When the time comes, I won't even be able to find a place to cry. The third princess seemed to have been given a shot of blood, so she took the discarded needle and thread and clumsily started sewing again. Baolei was sitting on the side, helping to separate the embroidery threads, with a strange arc at the corner of her mouth. Outside the palace, although it did not snow, the weather was dry and cold, and there were fewer and fewer people on the streets. Outside the gate of Xing's house in the south of the city, the Jiao family's carriage stopped. Mrsgia's second wife came to see her brother and sister-in-law again. Last time she came back from Li's house, she came here once and mentioned her niece's marriage. Brother and sister-in-law only said that they would think about it, and then there was no news. She has a short temper herself, and now she can't wait any longer. Yesterday, she went to the home of a family friend and met Mrs. Lu's Haiheng. Since they were both familiar with Mrs. Wen, they sat together and chatted for a long time. She was thinking about it, so she asked Mrs. Lu for a few questions. Mrs. Lu was full of praise for the Li family. Just when she was happy, someone else came over, vaguely mentioned the Li family, and asked about the unengaged boys of the Li family. This made her feel full of crisis, fearing that her niece's good marriage would be taken away. So, after a brief tidying up today, she hurried over to ask questions. Xing Weiner picked up her aunt and went all the way to the main room to see her mother, who was bedridden. Mrs. Xing was sick and looked bad, but when she saw her sister-in-law coming, she still sat up to entertain her and smiled sincerely. Sister, why are you here today? I heard it's very cold outside, please come and sit on the kong for a while. Mrsgiaer felt sorry for her sister-in-law. Before she got married, she had been taken care of by her sister-in-law. Now she held her hand and asked about her condition carefully. Sister-in-law, can you take medicine now? Which doctor is treating her this time? Is there any effect? Mrs. smiled bitterly, patted her sister-in-law's hand, and said, it's like this every year. When the seasons change, I always get more sick. Taking medicine is just for maintenance, and I can't die. Actually, after taking medicine for so many years, I have long been tired of it. If I hadn't missed Wanner and Ninggeer, I would have wanted to go to and avoid this misfortune. Sister-in-law, don't say that. You just haven't met a good doctor, Mrsgiaer quickly advised. I will definitely ask about the miracle doctor when I go to Sujintan recently. I heard that the miracle doctor in Zincan is very miraculous. All diseases can be cured. Helpless, Mrs. did not believe it, and waved her hand, don't take advantage of me. I have seen too many miracle doctors in so many years, and they are all like that. Mrsgiaer was about to speak, but the old lady at the door suddenly said, Master and young master came back. Not long after he finished speaking, Mr. Xing, dressed in a green robe, came in with his 89-year-old son Xing Ning. Xing Ning is lively. When she saw her aunt, she immediately threw herself into the arms of Mrsger. Auntie, when did you come? Where's Sister Bezu, why didn't you come? Mrsger patted her nephew and smiled happily, our brother Ning has grown taller again. Bezu is learning needlework at home. My aunt didn't bring her here this time. Next time you take a break, my aunt will send a carriage to pick you up. Let's go to my house and let Bezu take you to Bayanjian to eat Bayun cake, okay? Okay, okay. Mr. Yes, father. Seeing Ning shrank his neck, responded obediently, and secretly winked at his aunt twice, which meant that his aunt must not forget what he just said, and she would definitely send a car to pick him up. Mrsger saw it funny and took her nephew in her arms to intercede with her brother. Brother Ning is still young, so we can't push him too hard. He should resist studying. When he takes a bath, let him come to my place to play for a day. Bayanjian is not an ordinary shop, it just sells novel snacks. Moreover, the shop is under the name of Princess Kangal. Bezu and the princess are little sisters, and they get along very well. They will definitely be fine. Mr. Singh wanted to refuse, but looked at his sick wife and swallowed his words. The children have been thinking about their mother these past few days and have not been able to eat or sleep well. It would be nice to go out for a day to play and relax. He said, I will stay at home that day and let Wanner and Ning Geer go. Seeing Ning immediately cheered, making the room very noisy. Oh, great, I'm going to my aunt's house to eat Bayun cake. Seeing Wainer refused, Auntie, just take brother Ning with you. I still have a winter coat that I haven't sewn yet. I just have some peace and quiet and can do some sewing at home. Mr. Singh immediately said, no matter how busy you are, this day is not enough. Let's go play, Wanner. You don't have to stay at home to watch your mother every day. Mr. Singh also said, yes, Wanner, go ahead and watch your brother, don't be naughty. Seeing Wanner had no choice but to nod her head, and after chatting for a few words, she took her brother away, leaving space for the elders to talk. Sure enough, seeing her nephew and niece exiting, Mrsger immediately asked, brother, sister-in-law, what do you think about the Li family's marriage? If you agree, you have to hurry up and get married. In this new capital, more and more people are paying attention to the Li family and thinking about the boys of the Li family. After all, the Li family is a new rich, favored by the emperor, and has the support of the Marquis of Xinting. It is rare for several brothers in the family to be successful. In harmony, life is prosperous. If others find out that the Li family boy doesn't take concubines, I'm afraid he will have to fight to propose marriage right away. Mr. It is said that this child studies very hard, knows how to take care of his younger brother, and respects his husband even more. In short, his reputation is excellent. I originally wanted to see how this child is growing up, but I heard that he went to Quanzhou by boat to study with the students from the academy, and he will not be able to come back until the next year. Going on a study tour, Mrs. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 652. Chapter 652, Lies Told by All Daughters. Mrsger was even more surprised because she didn't know about it yet and was slightly annoyed. She thought she had reached a consensus with the Li family, and they were both interested in arranging this marriage. But what does it mean when the Li family suddenly sends their children to study abroad? Mr. Singh did not see his sister's face and continued, I heard that the Li family has a small fleet that often transports seafood to Quanzhou. This time the academy rented a passenger ship and went with the Li family. The children of the Li family work as boatmen in their own fleet and have to work all the way. Li Jiaran and one of his younger brothers are both scholars, so that is no exception. Other boys in their family have also been there before. This is really rare and admirable. You know, how many scholars today can't take care of themselves except studying, which is shameful. These words made Mrsger immediately change her mind. It turned out that the Lee family was not regretting it, but all the boys in the family had arranged it this way. If you come back after the new year, it won't be less than a few months. She thought for a while and then said, since eldest brother thinks it's good, I will find an opportunity to go to Lee's house in the next few days to ask about the miracle doctor. At that time, I will accompany my sister-in-law and take Warner to the consultation. How about I also let my sister-in-law and Warner take the opportunity to visit the Lee family? Mr. Singh pondered for a moment and then nodded. Okay, our family doesn't expect Warner to marry into a wealthy family. We only want the other party's family to be harmonious and to treat our children well. As an aunt, you should be more careful. What did you say, brother? Warner is just like my own daughter. Of course I have to do my best in her marriage. Mrsger glared at her brother with anger, and then told her sister-in-law, sister-in-law, you have to take good care of her. If the marriage is successful, you will give Warner a dowry. Mrs nodded repeatedly and responded, okay, I am relieved that Warner can marry into a good family. After sitting for a while, Mrsger hurried home. She is the head mother of the house and has a large family to take care of. Seen Wainer saw her father go to the study room in front of her, then she entered her mother's room and fed her mother ginseng soup. Mrs held her daughter's hand and looked at her carefully. She couldn't help but her eyes turned red. My daughter has grown up too. I still remember when you were born, you were a small ball, and we were about to kiss you in the blink of an eye. Mom, I'm not getting married, I'll take care of you at home. Seeing Wainer blushed and told lies that all girls told. Mrs was funny but didn't take her seriously. She asked, tell me, that day in front of the dim sum shop, you were hit by that boy from the Lee family. Can you tell what he looked like? Seeing Warner's face turned redder and her voice became lower and lower, Mom, I didn't dare to look carefully, even, his voice was very gentle and his behavior was very polite. It was obviously the coachman's fault, but he took the initiative to apologize to me. As she said this, she seemed to be lost in memories and spoke more smoothly. He is very tall, but neither burly nor thin. He wears a long gown, neither ostentatious nor shabby. Moreover, he loves his sister, Princess Kangal, very much. The reason why he was in such a hurry is because he heard that his sister was injured. Impatient. Mrs. If you are good at studying, gentle and polite, at least you will not do anything to your wife. It is better to love your younger sister. If you have children in the future, he will definitely love you too. Mom, where did you go? I haven't even scratched the surface. It's better to treat you first. Seeing Wainer was so embarrassed that she got up and ran away on the pretext of boiling medicine. In the courtyard of the Lee family, Mrs. Lee was sitting and sewing while chatting with Mrs. Wen and Huanayang. Why is there no news from the Geo family? Jiaran has gone out, otherwise Mr. Wen would have been taken with him as an excuse to ask for advice. You can also come and have a look. Auntie, we can't rush into marriage. To be honest, if that girl Warner is destined to be Jiaran's wife, she won't be able to escape even if it takes 2 months, not to mention Jiaran's trip to Quanzhou for 2 months. When the lady smiled and comforted. Madame Hui held the needle and scratched her scalp, then continued to pick up the solace. Yes, Auntie, you see, Brother Daong and I were so opposed by the Yan family, but we finally got married, and our 2 children are now this big. It's destiny. A good marriage will definitely not escape. Old Mrs. Lee couldn't help laughing. You two, you are taking turns giving me reassurance. At this time, Ji Yin came in from the outside with Grandma He, Shui Ling and Shui Yun, carrying a handful of parcels. Grandma, the Marquis mansion has prepared winter clothes and sent them over. Ji Yin went over and hugged Grandma's arm, smiling and asking for credit. I also gave Grandma a long coat and a cloak, waiting for Grandma to go find Chia's elders. Madam is well dressed when she plays. Silly girl, grandma's clothes are already in a cabinet, why are you making new ones? Mrs. Lee complained, but her face lit up with joy because of her granddaughter's filial piety. Huanayang and Mrs. Wen both stopped sewing and helped open the package. Uncle Zhao and the others in the backyard, Dr. Zhang, Mr. Zhang from the school, Gu Li, the book boy, and even the village elders are all involved. These winter coats are made of fine cotton and new cotton. They are not embroidered with any patterns. They are simple in style but warm. The same goes for the matching cotton shoes. Everyone looked at it briefly, and Mrs. Wen praised, the needlework lady in the home mansion is really amazing, her craftsmanship is really good, and her stitches are fine and smooth. Yes, Hui Niang also said, there is room for the cuffs and trouser legs. If the size is not suitable, you can still leave a piece of it. Mrs. Lee was also playing with her two pieces. The more she looked at them, the more she fell in love with them. She told her granddaughter, in addition to supplementing the reward for these needlework ladies, remember to put some snacks in the shop and thank them properly. Grandma, I've already ordered you to go down at this moment, the silver reward and snacks have been delivered to the Marquis Mansion. Jiyan patted her chest proudly, your granddaughter is doing things, and she can take good care of them. Everyone laughed when they heard this, and Mrs. Lee even hugged her granddaughter and kissed her, when my lucky girl grows up, she can be the director of the family. Huanayang thought of the second village and asked, over there in the second village, have the coats and trousers of the wounded soldiers and veterans been prepared? There are more than 100 wounded and veteran soldiers in the second village. Their measurements were taken and entrusted to the relief department. Coarse cloth and cotton are both produced by the home mansion and sent to the relief department to find some work for the old and weak there and earn some wages. The wounded soldiers and veterans now receive monthly wages, which is enough to support themselves, and there is still a lot of surplus. They originally insisted on spending their own money to make winter clothes, but the Marquis said that he would subsidize it for the first year, and then let them pay for it themselves. Of course, if they marry a daughter-in-law in the future, they don't have to worry about it. There will naturally be a daughter-in-law to take care of. As a result, the wounded and veterans are now working harder and planning to get wives as soon as possible. Mrs. Lee said, then I'll ask when my second brother comes back tonight. It's probably only been 2 days. It's already a winter moon, and it's going to snow soon. It's time to wear thick coats and trousers. While everyone was talking, Li Lauer came over from the front yard with a face full of joy. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 653. Chapter 653, Returning with a Full Load. What good things have happened? What good flowers are sold in Baiwan Garden? Old Mrs. Lee joked with her son, teasing him and wanting to sit down. Li Lauer, however, waved his hand and said to the good news, Fu Niuer, the men you sent to the south are back, and they have brought the convoy to the archway. Seriously, Jiyan jumped up happily, quickly packed up, called Shuiling and ran out. Mrs. Lee was thinking about it, so she said to Mrs. Wen and Hui Niang, let's go and watch the fun. Lao He and those people are all capable. I don't know what good things they can find in the south. After saying that, she ordered Aunt He, call Wenjuan too. This child only eats and sleeps every day. If this continues, she will become very fat, and the baby in her belly will be too big to be born. You will have to take her around more often in the future. Everyone nodded, put down what they were doing, and walked out. As expected, Wenjuan was sleeping on the bed, her face still a little red from the heat. She was wrapped in a thick cloak by Aunt He, and she followed the others with a shy smile. The good news has already greeted Lao He and others' convoy at the door, including more than a dozen carriages. Lao He and the others have been out for 2 months. Their faces have become tanned and they have lost weight, but their eyes are very bright. Each of them smiled with white teeth and a dusty face. Uncle He, thank you for your hard work. Jiyan did not look at the things in the car first, but first looked at Lao He and others. He saw that there were quite a few of them, and no one was missing an arm or a leg, so he felt relieved. Lao He and others have lived for half their lives, and they feel extremely warm in their hearts when they see the young master like this. The little master always puts their safety first, and this is not a lie. Lao He and 30 men all saluted. Princess, I'm back. Fortunately, I have lived up to my command. Jiyan personally helped Uncle He and the others who were standing in front, and said, it's good to be back safely. Uncle He, thank you for your hard work. Go back to the second village to wash and eat, and then come back to unload the goods. It's not too late. No, no, Princess, let's unload the goods first. Uncle He quickly waved his hand and said with a smile, Princess, you don't know, we found a lot of good things this time, and we delivered them all quickly, and we feel relieved. On the way, we were really worried about eating and sleeping because of these precious things. Now when we get home, we can give the things to the princess so that we can snore with peace of mind. As soon as he said this, Mrs. Li and others came out. It is inevitable to have another lively greeting and greeting. Then Lao He invited Jiyan to see the first car. Princess, we wanted to go all the way to inquire and collect things along the way. But by chance we met a merchant who told us that there is a local medicinal material in Yunzhou prefecture like what you want. Sankai, so we went straight to Yunzhou. Sure enough, Panax Noto ginseng was found there. We pulled a cart of dry goods, dug up dozens of medicinal seedlings and planted them in pots. We kept a close watch on them on the road, but none of them died. They are all here. Jiyan took out a piece of dry ginger like Panax Noto ginseng from the box, which was as big as her palm and looked ugly. She looked at the medicinal seedlings again and nodded excitedly. Uncle He, this is what I want to find, the medicinal materials. If nothing else, bring them back. Your trip will not be in vain. Lao He and the other men are very happy. This is overfulfilling the master's task. Lao He quickly led Jiyan to see the other vehicles, which were full of medicinal materials special to Yunzhou prefecture, such as Gastrodia elata, Huangjing, Bio, and even immortal grass. They didn't know much about these medicinal materials and were afraid of missing something, so they brought finished products, seedlings, and seeds of almost every medicinal material. The black soil Jiyan prepared for them played an important role. As long as you plant the medicinal seedlings and keep warm along the way, none of the medicinal seedlings will die even if you don't water them a few times. This is simply an unexpected bumper harvest, which makes the good news extremely joyful. Old Mrs. Li followed to watch the fun. Although she didn't understand the uses of these medicinal materials, they were happy when the fat girl was happy. As a result, before Jiyan could say anything and sent the things to the greenhouse behind, Dr. Zhang actually came running after smelling the smell of medicinal herbs in the air. The old man looked at several carts of medicinal materials from beginning to end. He was dancing with joy and almost going crazy. Ha ha ha, I'm getting rich, there is elixir of life, as well as Gastrodia elata and Bio, it's really a pillow for sleepiness, I'm sure my new wound medicine will work. He shouted unceremoniously, hurry, get in the car and send it to me. This is really a blatant and justified robbery. Before Jiyan could say anything, Mrs. Li stopped her protectively. Brother, Fu Niuer sent people to find these medicinal materials all the way back. If you want to use it, just take part of it. Why don't you leave more than half for the child? Otherwise, if the child is sad and doesn't send anyone out in the future, wouldn't everything be lost? Also, You don't have time to plant these medicinal seedlings, leave them all for your children. If your children figure it out and plant more at home in the future, they won't have to go to Yunzhou Prefecture anymore, right? Miracle Dr. Zhang doesn't have to be polite at all with his young apprentice, but when it comes to old Mrs. Li, he still knows how to save face. So he coughed twice and responded, "Okay, just share some with me. Even if you send them all to me, if Fu Niuer wants to use them, she can pick them up at any time." After saying that, he made an excuse and ran away. Everyone couldn't help but laugh. Huaniyang said, "Uncle Zhang is becoming more and more like a child. Yes, I see that Uncle Zhang's hair seems to be darker than before. He is really rejuvenated." Mrs. Wen didn't see Dr. Zhang often, so she found that the change was more obvious. Old Mrs. Li quickly waved her hand and said, "Dr. Zhang Shen is open-minded and devoted to his medical skills. He has nothing to worry about and naturally looks younger. It's enough for us to know about it ourselves. Otherwise, if the news spreads, if there is any unscrupulous person who comes looking for some elixir of life, it will cause trouble for divine Dr. Zhang." Ji Yin hugged Grandma's arm and listened with a smile. In fact, it doesn't matter if all the medicinal materials are given to Dr. Zhang, because there are medicinal seedlings and seeds. As long as they are sent into the space, she will have a medicinal field in the blink of an eye. But Grandma protected her and refused to let her suffer any injustice or suffer any loss, which still made her very happy. After reading the medicinal materials, Lao He let Ji Yin to look at the next few carts. "Princess, these are the most abundant and most delicious fruits in Yunzhou Prefecture. They were broken and rotted a lot due to the bumps on the road. In the end, there were only so many left. But we brought seeds and saplings for everything in 2 cases. We dug out tree roots and buried them in the black soil, and brought them back. Princess, let's see if they can be used." Ji Yin looked at those boxes, which were padded with thatch, and actually contained loquat fruits, mangosteens, lychees, bayberries, citrus, pomegranates, and even green bananas. But, as Lao He said, most of the fruits are no longer fresh due to the long journey. But she is not afraid. As long as there is a seed, it can become a spark that starts a prairie fire. Furthermore, the nursery can also optimize the seeds, and the fruits grown can be more delicious than those produced in Yunzhou Prefecture. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 654. Chapter 654, The Price of Gloating About Misfortune. Uncle He, you have done a great job. Even if these fruits cannot be planted all over the mountains here, if you put them in a greenhouse, even one basket can be sold for a sky-high price, which is enough to pay for 10 more trips. Ji Yin's unstinting praise made Lao He and others heave a long sigh of relief. You must know that they have almost spent the money given by the master on this trip. They were worried about it on the way, fearing that whatever they brought back would be useless and their master would have to pay for it. Fortunately, Lao He felt more relaxed now that he was relieved of the heavy burden in his heart. He opened the door of the last carriage and said, "Princess, we found in Yunzhou Prefecture that the local sweet potatoes are particularly sweet and the flesh is red, so we took a cart to our family. Look, it's best if it can be used even if it's not of much use, baking it for the children at home will make their mouths sweet." Ji Yin reached out and picked up a few, her eyes widened with laughter. "These are sweet potatoes, much better than what we grow here. This is also good stuff, and you can sell it at a good price if you send it directly to the pastry shop." This sentence is like the finishing touch, drawing the most perfect ending to this trip south. From Lao He to all the men, they all grinned. More than 2 months of hard work finally paid off. At this time, Xiaoqui rushed over from the second village. Ji Yin asked, "Auntie, have Uncle He and his friends prepared their meals?" "Ready," Xiaoqui smiled and responded simply, "I have cooked 3 large pots of noodles with meat sauce and egg sauce. The big kong has also been heated up." The new coats and trousers are all ready. Just wait for them to go back. Lao Hei and others felt itchy after hearing this. They just passed by the workshop and were thinking about noodles mixed with meat sauce. Now they can eat it in their mouths. Ji Yin quickly asked them to go back. Just when the village chief, Lu Biatu, and the villagers heard the news, they all came to watch the fun. At this time, they happened to help carry the things in the car to the greenhouse behind. Ji Yin separated 1/3 of the medicinal materials at that time and took them directly to the small courtyard of Dr. Zhang. The old man was hit hard by the wound medicine she prepared last time, and he tried his best to save his master's face. If these medicinal materials are not delivered, the old man may not be able to sleep well tonight. This was the first time for several villagers to enter Ji Yin's greenhouse. They were all surprised by how warm it was, like spring. They also saw a lot of vegetables and fruits, and they all said that they felt like they had entered a fairyland. Ji Yin picked a few bunches of grapes for them to eat, but they were reluctant to part with them. They carefully held them with their hands and prepared to take them back to the elderly and children to eat. Finally calmed down, Ji Yin asked Shui Ling to guard the door, and started to tidy up. Except for some fruit seedlings and medicinal seedlings left outside as a cover, the rest are collected into the space, optimizing what needs to be optimized, and nurturing what needs to be cultivated. This busy schedule lasted all afternoon and all night. Shui Ling was so sleepy that she fell asleep directly on the couch at the door. Fortunately, in the greenhouse, the heat from the sunlight received during the day is stored, so it is also very warm at night. Good news moves in and out of space through the cover of the vines. By the time the sky turned white, there were already 2 acres of new medicinal herbs in the space, and the roots of the banana tree had grown 2 feet tall again. Slightly yellow banana bunches grow layer after layer around the trunk, which is very pleasant. Not far away, there are loquat trees, citrus trees, mangosteen trees, and pomegranate trees, all of which are rich in fruit. Just think about it, you can eat these fruits casually in the future, or even sell them as a novelty with the help of Bianjian. You will definitely make a lot of money, and the good news will not feel tired at all. The little fox was running around in the space like crazy, tasting this and tasting that, and was very busy. As a result, it finally found that grapes are the most delicious. The little green snake was gloating about its misfortune and secretly sticking out its tongue in the cage. The little fox discovered it, swung its big tail and gave it a rotating flying cage package. Finally, the little fox ran to the henhouse again, stole an egg, and ate it in front of the little green snake. Ji Yin ignored these 2 enemies and cut a bunch of bananas, intending to give the family a fresh taste. But it was just dawn, and almost no one in the family was awake. Fortunately, there was movement in the yard next door. Ji Yin climbed up the wall and took a look. Sure enough, his foster father was practicing martial arts. So, she climbed down with a smile. In order to make it easier for her to climb the wall, the Ye family has always set up a ladder under the wall. Before she could jump down with good news, the Marquis had already thrown away his sword and came to pick her up. The morning breeze was too cold, so the father and daughter entered the study. As a gift of good news, I offered the bunch of bananas. Father, I don't even know when you will come back. Try it quickly. This is the fruit brought back by Uncle He from Yunzhou Prefecture. It is particularly sweet and soft. It can also be eaten to relieve constipation. Haha, in short, it is suitable for all ages. Grandma and the others haven't woken up yet, my adoptive father will eat first. Ji Yin peeled off a banana and handed it to the Marquis's mouth. Like ordinary men, Mr. Ho is not very interested in fruits. After all, the fruit does not have the aroma of meat, and you will not feel hungry or gain strength after eating it. But this is what my daughter feeds, so I have to eat it no matter what. Master Ho smiled and took a bite, but he was pleasantly surprised. Hey, this banana is really soft and sweet. Even the elderly and children without teeth can eat it? Of course. If it doesn't taste good, can I climb the wall to deliver it to my adoptive father? Jiyan said proudly. Father can eat as much as he likes. I have a lot more there. By chance, Dongmei heard the commotion and brought warm water in for the Marquis to wash up. Jiyan broke off 2 more sticks and let her and Yeshan taste them too. Dongmei smiled and said, "Is this what the convoy brought back from the south yesterday? There are more fruits in the south than in the north, and they are also novel." Jiyan replied with a smile, "After the new year, Uncle He and the others are going to Sichuan Prefecture. There are more good things there." The Marquis nodded, finished the banana in his hand, and said, "Earlier, the expedition team you mentioned also accepted the mission and came back from the north. Not only did they bring back things for their employer, they also inquired about a lot of news about the barbarians. There is also the express company that helps people deliver packages and letters. It has also begun to organize. Preliminary calculations show that hundreds of people can be used. In this way, all the wounded soldiers will be properly arranged and have jobs to support their families." After saying that, he ruffled Jiyan's hair and praised, "These are all thanks to your blessing. Tell me what kind of thank you want, and your adoptive father will definitely find it for you." Jiyan smiled and waved her hands. "No, foster father, I have already received the thank you gift. Uncle He and the others are all good hands, and they brought me so many good things back after just one trip." Seeing that she refused to take credit, the Marquis stopped insisting and asked about the birthday gift for the Wanchao festival. The father and daughter discussed it for a few words and felt relieved that it was safe. Soon, in the yard next door, the old lady lost her granddaughter, and Shuiling woke up and lost her master. They all started shouting, and Jiyan quickly climbed up the wall and went back. After breakfast, the good news went to Dr. Zhang to report as usual. As expected, the old man got new medicinal materials and had no time to take care of his young apprentice. He gave his young apprentice a book of meridian and acupointment maps, plus a special bronze figure, and then he plunged into his medicine room and never came out. Jiyan carried the meridians and acupuncture points chart, and Shuiling carried the copper figure on his shoulders. They walked home all the way, but they made a lot of attention in the village. The villagers couldn't help but laugh, feeling sad that the good news had been released again. Everyone knows that this master, Dr. Zhang, sometimes works as a hands-off shopkeeper. When they got home, the Li family couldn't laugh or cry. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 655. Chapter 655, Having fun alone is not as good as having fun with everyone. How many days did Divine Dr. Zhang give you to recite and practice this time? Mrs. Li knocked on the bronze figure, her eyes filled with distress. Jiyan said, "Half a month. Fortunately, Grandpa Zhang has to think about new medicines, otherwise he would only give me 5 days. Tao Hongying has always wanted to be a strict mother, so she said, a strict teacher will produce a good disciple, and you can do whatever the Dr. Zhang arranges. It's winter now, there is no work at home and outside, so you should stop running to the city and be good practice at home." Jiyan rolled her eyes, ran to the backyard, and came back with a few books. Except for Mrs. Li, from Tao Hongying, Li Lao to Wenjuan, almost everyone has a copy in their hands. Jiyan said with a smile, "This is the manuscript of the Atlas in the Marquis mansion, but I stayed up several nights to copy it. Mom, second uncle, and sister-in-law, you should memorize it and walk around in the future. This thing will be of great use. I will continue copying when I have free time. When the time comes, I will give a copy to my uncle and brothers, as well as my third uncle, my mother, and my father." Tao Hongying and others pinched the thick manuscripts in their hands and flipped through them. They were filled with densely packed names. They looked at each other as if they both had a headache. "It's so thick and complicated, I'm afraid I couldn't recite it all even years ago." Jiyan covered her mouth and smiled secretly. Happiness alone is not as good as happiness among everyone. Since we want to work hard, the whole family should work together, supervise each other, and take care of each other to get twice the result with half the effort. How could old Mrs. Lee not know her granddaughter's little thoughts? She nodded her forehead and laughed too. Fast forward, it was the 5th or 6th day again. The Marquis went to the dock military camp to take charge, and Li Laozi and Li Yong had the opportunity to go home and take a look. The two of them rode fast, and it was already dark when they got home. The snow fell much later this year, and they were caught up in the first scene by their brothers. When you walk in, you look like a snowman. Zheng Feng and Zheng He heard the noise and came out to help tie the horses. Li Laozi felt that the house was extremely quiet, so he asked, "Have everyone in the family gone to the city?" Zheng He explained, "No, fourth master, the masters are all working hard to endorse." Li Laozi and Li Yong were confused when they heard it. When they arrived in the main room, they discovered that, as expected, almost everyone in the family had a book in their hands and they were all muttering something. Even 2 more oil lamps were lit than usual, illuminating the room brightly. Only Mrs. Lee is doing needlework with a smile, and there is a good news pricking acupuncture on the copper figure. "Mom, we are back," Li Laozi shouted, causing everyone in the family to look over and quickly took them into the house to sit down. Tao Hongying held the book and said, "Why did you come back after traveling all night? Fortunately, there is still a pot of broth at home. I will cook hot soup noodles for you and bake some cakes. Daong will go back after eating, so that Madame Hui won't have to light the fire again." After that, she went out. When she crossed the threshold, she didn't forget to read 2 books. She complained in a low voice, "This old He family is so fertile. They have 7 children. It's really a headache to have children after children." Li Laozi was even more confused. He asked his mother to find out what was going on. He and Li Yong laughed, thinking that their family was having an easy life at home, but it turned out that it was not easy either. After dinner, Li Yong hurried home. Li Laozi and his wife returned to the wing. He originally wanted to do something small, but in the end, a book was thrust into his hand. "I've been memorizing it for several days. You can test me on the first 30 pages. My daughter will do a spot check tomorrow. If I can't memorize it, my daughter will definitely laugh at me." Tao Hongying is really sad and funny. In the past, the governor urged her daughter to study hard, but she never thought that she would be like this. Li Laozi had no choice but to cheer up and help his wife make progress. He didn't want to, but he was looking at his wife more and more seriously, muttering from time to time, "Hey, that guy He Kaiang and Zhao Hong are actually cousins. No wonder they always get together. He is now in charge of those young soldiers, training them every day and arranging general affairs. After such a long period of running in, it is finally much better than before." Looking at this booklet now, it turns out that he understood many small things in daily life in an instant, and his young masters and soldiers knew more about the details. By the time he finished reading and wanted to say a few words to his wife, Tao Hongying had already fallen asleep. Getting up early for dinner the next day, Li Laozi took the initiative to ask his daughter for 2 atlases and joined the endorsement team. When Li Yong came over, he was stuffed with a copy. Li Yong still wanted to be lazy. After all, if he liked reading, he wouldn't have to break up with his family. It's a pity that he also has a good wife. Huanayang was transformed into a supervisor, who not only supervised his proficiency in reciting, but also recited it herself. Fortunately, Li Yong grew up in the city, and Huanayang's family was also an official, so they both had some foundation, so it took less effort to recite it. When the Geo family sent an invitation saying that Mrs. Geo was going to bring a pearl as a guest, the Li family was shocked to realize that they had been studying hard for half a month. Jiyan quickly went to the city and brought back some food from Bianjian. The next day, Mrs. Jia and her daughter brought a package as guests. It was cold, so Mrs. Wen did not let them run back and forth and gathered directly at Li's house. As soon as Beizu saw the good news, he hugged her and wouldn't let go, complaining non-stop. Sister Jiyan, you don't want Beizu anymore. Wow, last time you said we were best friends, you just ignored me for such a long time. I felt guilty after hearing the good news. Indeed, I haven't seen this foodie girl since the last time the shop opened. Although I had been to the shop before, I didn't meet this girl. Later, I was too busy with my studies, so I couldn't take care of her anymore. She quickly apologized and coaxed Beizu, I've been really busy lately. I originally wanted to find you, but I didn't expect you to come first. I'll take you to the greenhouse and eat delicious food with you soon. Humph, that's pretty much it. Beizu immediately became happy when he heard that there was something delicious to eat. Everyone looked at these two girls. They were both fair and fat, clean and cute. At this moment, they were sitting together, chattering like little adults, and couldn't help but laugh. Mrs. Jia said, our Beizu has been nagging my ears for the past few days. I really can't bear it anymore, so I brought her here to bother me. What are you talking about? This is a heretical thing to say. Everyone in the family hopes that you will move around more often. Old Mrs. Li took her hand and said, what is your mother-in-law doing at home? How is her health? Mrs. Jia hurriedly responded one by one, and finally opened the package, took out a forehead wiper, and said with a smile, my mother chose a pattern and asked the embroiderer at home to make it. She specifically asked me to bring it. She said it was cold. Let the old lady wear it to protect her head from the cold. Mrs. Li took it, looked through it carefully, praised it several times, and finally said, we don't have such good craftsmanship at home, but a convoy just came back from the south and brought some citrus. When you leave, pick it up. A basket for your mother-in-law to try. Okay, old lady, I'm not welcome, it's cold and we have a charcoal pot burning at home. My mother always says that her throat is dry and itchy, so eating a few oranges will moisten her throat. Mrs. Jia made the old lady laugh, and then gave Wenjuan and Mrs. Wen each a set of children's clothes. Even Jiyan got a white fox fur waistcoat. Everyone thanked her, and the chatter and laughter became more and more lively. Beizu couldn't sit still, so Jiyan said hello and took her to the greenhouse behind. Everyone left in the room also set up the table, ate snacks, cracked melon seeds, and chatted. Mrs. Jia looked at a medical book placed on the Kong, and her heart moved. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 656. Chapter 656 Seek medical treatment. After thinking about it, he smiled and said, last time I heard that the princess is studying medicine. This is not an easy task. I'm afraid it will be very hard, right? Not to mention anything else, just identifying the herbs and memorizing the prescriptions is enough to give me a headache. That's right, Tao Hongying said empathetically. She fully understood how hard it was for her daughter to recite the atlas these past few days. Fortunately, Fu Niu is young and has a good brain, otherwise endorsements would make people worry to death. Mrs. Jia was amused and laughed, if it were easy to endorse, wouldn't everyone be the #1 scholar? Everyone also laughed. Mrs. Li pointed to a cloth sheet in the corner of the room and said, there is a bronze figure hidden underneath, sealed with wax on the outside and filled with oil inside. Fu Niu has been using her silent back acupuncture points and meridians recently. If the acupuncture points are found right, oil will come out when the silver needles are inserted. If they are wrong, they will not penetrate. It's really hard for my lucky girl. It's not easy to learn some skills, otherwise she would have run away to play with the orbs. Mrsger nodded repeatedly. My Beza has also been learning the rules recently. She is still lazy and not as smart as the princess. She is often beaten. I feel so distressed that I can't sleep or eat, but I still have to endure it. After saying that, she changed her subject and asked, there is a legend in the city that there is a miracle doctor in Sujintan who can cure all kinds of diseases. Is this the princess's master? Seeing the eagerness in her eyes, Mrs. Lee vaguely guessed something. After thinking for a moment, she said, it's useless if everything is passed around. There is indeed an old doctor in our village, and Fu Niur is indeed following him now. He is studying medicine. But medical skills are too profound. Every doctor is good at it or not, so it's impossible to cover everything. After being together for so many years, I have seen that Master Fu Niur is good at treating injuries and recuperating the body, but I don't know about the rest. These words were pertinent, but made Mrs. even more eager. She stepped forward and took old Mrs. Lee's hand and said, what the old lady doesn't know is that my sister-in-law is the mother-in-law of my niece Wanner, whom I met at the door of the pastry shop last time. She had a difficult time giving birth and almost died from a hemorrhage. Although she was saved, she was kept in bed to recuperate. She was unable to do anything at home or outside the house, so she had to suffer Wanner and became a considerate housekeeper. Today I am shamelessly asking the old lady for help. When will the princess's miraculous doctor be free? Can he check my sister-in-law's pulse? When they heard the word Wanner, Mrs. Lee and Tao Hongying's eyes lit up. Especially Mrs. Lee, she even regretted speaking so hard just now. At this moment, she quickly turned around, smiled and said, you are really kind and caring, and you care so much about your sister-in-law. Just like you, I have to ask you even if I don't care about this old face. As she spoke, she called Auntie and asked, go and ask Divine Dr. Zhang if you have any free time recently. Grandma, he agreed with a smile and then went out. Mrs. was thinking about it, but she still wanted to talk to Mrs. Lee and others with a smile. Fortunately, it didn't take long for Grandma he to come back. She reported the truth. Old madam, Dr. Zhang is researching new medicines again, and the smell of medicines in the room is very pungent. He said that if there is a patient, as long as he cannot die, he should wait for 7 or 8 days. Mrs. Lee was afraid that Mrs. would be unhappy when she heard this, so she quickly explained, Dr. Zhang has a bad temper. He has been trying to figure out new medicines recently and has not been going well. Don't worry about this bad tone. He is still very serious about his diagnosis. In this way, in 7 or 8 days, Divine Dr. Zhang will be able to treat you here, and I will send someone to your house to inform you. Okay, thank you, old lady. Mrs. was not angry at all. Even capable people have bad tempers. After all, they have such confidence. The doctors that eldest brother hired earlier were nice and lively, but they had no ability. In the greenhouse at the back, Basil looks like Grandma Lu has entered the Grand View garden. She ran to see the blooming flowers for a while, and picked bunches of grapes for a while. She was so happy. Jiyan followed her, eating, drinking and laughing together. Although it is dry and cold today, the sun is good and the greenhouse is warmer than the house. The two little girls quickly took off their coats, their hot little faces flushed like a pair of red apples. Jiyan quietly released the little fox. The little fox swung its big tail and ran around, making Beza go crazy with joy. When Mrs. Lee and Tao Hongying brought Mrs. Wen and Mrs. Jia over, they were amused and happy to see the two girls playing so shamelessly. As a result, after a while, they were too hot and sweated, so someone guarded the door. They also took off their coats and spent the summer in the greenhouse. When it snowed for the first time, the home mansion sent 2 sheep over. One of them made mutton soup, and the whole village ate and drank it. There was 1 mutton left, and the mutton was cut off, rolled and frozen into a tube to become a mutton roll. At this time, the brass mandarin duck pot is heated, and the green vegetables are picked directly in the greenhouse, and a variety of meatballs, fish balls, prawns, etc. are served, paired with freshly cut mutton slices. It is simply the best banquet dish in winter. As for who cut the mutton slices, there will be a shortage of people around the house, but there are only a handful of knife wielders. From Li Laosi to Yeshan, they are all competent enough. The cut lamb rolls are so thin and good, of course they can't eat them. Today's banquet with female guests is the world of women. In the greenhouse, all kinds of flowers are blooming in brilliant purples and reds, and the fragrance is fragrant. Vegetables of all colors are emerald green, bunches of grapes hang on the shelves, and juicy cucumbers hang on the vines. The hot pot in front of you has a fragrant bone soup and a spicy hot pot. The shabu shabu dishes are refreshing and the shabu shabu meat is filling. Every bite is a rare enjoyment. If it weren't for the cold wind howling outside the glass cover above the head and blowing the snow, no one would believe that this was in the cold winter. I really enjoyed my stay with my aunt today. Such a wonderful place is comparable to a fairyland on earth. Mrs. had eaten and drank enough, holding her hot cheeks in her hands. It was rare that she put aside her pretense of being the wife of the house, as if she was back when she was a girl, acting coquettishly with Mrs. Lee. From now on, I will also be called aunt, not the old lady. My aunt will treat me like her niece. I will come to fight the autumn wind every day, and stay by my aunt's side every day. There's still me, Bao Zhu stuffed a meatball in her mouth and quickly raised her hands, fearing that I would leave her behind. Both the Li family and Mrs. Wen couldn't stop laughing. Old Mrs. Li said, "Come if you want. As I get older, I like the liveliness and excitement at home. Unfortunately, the children are older and are not around. I dislike the deserted home." Woolen cloth. Mrs. immediately climbed up the pole and said, "As my aunt said, I will shamelessly treat this place as my second natal home." Everyone likes her for being so informal and talking much more intimately. Tao Hongying recently memorized the atlas and asked for advice on the headaches. What Mrs. said was clear and clearer than what Mrs. Wen said, and even mixed in some secrets between different families. For example, whose concubine is spoiled and his wife is destroyed, whose mother-in-law is unruly and cruel to her daughter-in-law, whose second cousin is a cousin, and the eldest daughter-in-law is so overwhelmed that she can't breathe. All in all, everyone enjoyed the meal happily. The dining table was removed, each person had a lounge chair, and they ate some fruit. The gossip became even more lively. Jiyan and Beza sat under the grape trellis, eating and eavesdropping on the excitement. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 657. Chapter 657. If you don't reveal your wealth, you will be slaughtered if you reveal it. Let's not talk about the excitement in the Li family's hothouse, just talk about the Miss Jiaran brothers who walked to a port 300 miles away from Quanzhou that day. Because this place is prosperous, all the ships are willing to come over to get some water, and the pier is extremely lively with people coming and going. The Jiaran brothers came out with the purpose of study tour, just to see more of the world and gain some experience, whether good or bad. So, when the fleet docked and the stewards were busy, Jiaran took Brother Li and Brother Cat to find his uncle, planning to get off the ship and take a look. Li Zhenshen naturally would not disagree. Along the way, he also encouraged his nephews and sons to negotiate more. The previous levels required stamping documents, which were all completed by children. The level must be managed carefully, and both soft and hard measures must be used. You must not let yourself suffer a loss, nor can you let those small officials have no luck. This degree is difficult to grasp. Fortunately, Jiaran handled the situation well. Brother Li and Brother Mao were following him. They couldn't help, but they didn't hold them back either. They performed really well. So, this time, he directly handed some money to his nephew and told him, gather some people and go have a good day. You can stay in the inn at night. Just come back before tomorrow with your brothers. When you encounter good things, remember to buy some. Give it to Funiur. Okay, Uncle Jiaran responded. Brother Mao and Brother Li were even more excited when they heard that they could stay outside for one night. Soon, they changed their clothes and led their boys out of the boat. Ji Yi and Lu Yang were already experienced sailors and did not come down with them this time. After all, they still had to take care of the fleet. As a result, as soon as the three brothers got off the boat, they met Lu Zong and Jiasu, who also took their servants with them, intending to go for a walk. As soon as the two sides met, Jiasu and Lu Zong laughed. The three Jiaran brothers were originally fair and elegant, but they worked as boatmen along the way. Not to mention the hard work, they also became much darker and thinner due to the wind and sun, and they could hardly look like scholars anymore. What's more, they are not wearing brocade robes at the moment. They are all cotton trousers with narrow sleeves and tight-fitting belts. They look neat and tidy when walking around the world. Similarly, the three brothers of the Li family also frowned when they saw Jiasu and Lu Zong's clothes. These two people were wearing brand new brocade robes, with sapphire hairpins on their heads, jade belts around their waists, and jade pendants hanging from their purses. One person also had a gold-painted fan in his hand, shaking it as he walked. They are simply two walking bullies, long-legged golden purses. It seems to be announcing to all the thieves and gangsters on the dock that we have money, very much money, so feel free to come and rob. Jiaran is okay, the city is deeper and he doesn't want to talk too much. But Brother Cat was young and was about to speak, but Brother Li pulled him hard. Lu Zong, who was chatting with his family members, caught sight of this, changed his mind and asked, Brother Li, where are you going? Can we go together? Jiaran didn't want to cause trouble, but he got along well with them in the academy before, so he couldn't refuse them directly, so he said, Sir, didn't they take their classmates to drink tea and recite poetry at Wanghai Tower? Don't you plan to go and see it? Lu Zong shook his head and said, everywhere we go along the way is like this. It's really boring. I wish I could walk around the market with you, and maybe I can encounter something interesting. Jiasu also nodded and said, indeed, this is the last pier before arriving in Quanzhou. If we don't visit more, we will have no chance in the future. This cannot be refused. Jiaran thought for a while and agreed, but also made a request, safety comes first when you go out. Since you are with us, there are some things you'd better follow our arrangements. Okay, we have no objection, Lu Zong responded immediately, and Jiasu nodded. Jiaran pointed to their purses and said, you'd better put your purses in your sleeve pockets. If there are any expenses, we will advance them first and then divide them equally. Lu Zong and Jiasu were hesitant, but Brother Cat finally couldn't bear it anymore and shouted, Article 2 of the Jianghu Manual, if you don't reveal your wealth, you will be slaughtered. Lu Zong and Jiasu were stunned when they heard this, and then turned to laugh. Lu Zong patted Brother Cat on the shoulder and asked, where did I hear this? It's quite interesting. Fortunately, he was true to his word and hid the wallet seriously. However, the mutton fat white jade chicken heart pendant still hangs brightly on her waist. The same is true for Jiasu. The three brothers of the Li family looked at each other and said nothing. A few people walked together to the noisy dock. The vendors selling fish, the stewards doing the purchasing, the porters selling their strength, the rented cloth cleaning carts, the tavern boys standing at the door shouting. The smoke and smoke of the world is simply rushing towards your face. This is a scene you can't experience even in a tea house overlooking the pier, drinking tea and writing poetry. Lu Zong and Jiasu both found it novel. They looked here and walked there, always staying in front. Jiaran was protecting his two younger brothers, followed by Go Sheng and Zheng Lu and Zheng Qi, vaguely separated by passers-by or fishermen. Whether they are approaching intentionally or passing by accidentally. As we were walking, we saw that we were about to pass the noisiest section of the road, when 3 or 4 little fishermen ran over, playing with each other. There was a little kid who looked to be only 5 or 6 years old. He was quite cleanly dressed. Perhaps he tripped on something and knocked down the younger kid in front of him. Seeing that the two of them were about to fall into pieces, Luzon and Jiasu, who were only one step away, subconsciously reached out to give them a hand. The two little babies almost bumped into their arms. They managed to stand upright. They scratched the back of their heads in embarrassment and thanked them, and then ran away like a swarm of swarms. When passing by the 3 Grn brothers, a few little kids turned to look at them. Luzon and Jiasu felt happy that they had done something good. Then they saw the 3 Grn brothers and the boy leaning on the side of the road, looking like they didn't want to get involved at all. They were a little unhappy. As I continued walking forward, I found it was much quieter when I reached an open area. Jiasu couldn't help but said, "Brother Li, we study to understand the truth. The old and the old, the young and the young, and the young are the basic qualities. You just didn't want to help, so why are you treating those children like snakes and scorpions and avoiding them? Isn't it too much?" Grn didn't say anything, but Brother Li spoke up, "Brother Lu, Brother Jia, would you like to touch your belt?" Jiasu and Luzon frowned, looked down, and were stunned. They quickly touched their waists several times, only to find that there was only a piece of red rope left on the belt, and the jade pendant had long since disappeared. Thinking of the little babies they bumped into their arms just now, they still didn't understand. Fortunately, they also accused the Li brothers of not taking care of the little kids. It turned out that they had already figured out that they were a few thieves. It was then that Grn asked, "Brother Lu, Brother Jia, do you want to report to the official to retrieve the jade pendant? If you want to report to the official, it's best to go to the tea house and find a boy to take you there. There is a mixed crowd at the pier. If we find the wrong person, we may take you to a remote place to rob you. Don't talk about the jade pendant, I'm afraid I won't be able to keep your clothes, shoes, and socks." Luzon and Jiasu's faces turned even redder. They looked at each other and suddenly made up their minds. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 658. Chapter 658. It's hardest to accept the kindness of a beauty. The two of them saluted the Li brothers together. Luzon said, "Brother Li, forgive our ignorance and offense just now. We are not looking for this jade pendant. We may not be able to find it even if we look for it. We will follow your brothers everywhere. Don't worry, we will follow the arrangements in everything this time." Grn sighed inwardly, knowing that he couldn't get rid of these two people. Actually, he didn't want to take them around with him. Fortunately for Jiasu, Luzon obviously has a special status. If something happens and someone gets hurt, the Li family will be easily angered. Then, isn't it an unreasonable disaster? But the words have already been said here. If you refuse any more, you will offend others. He could only say, "My dear brothers, we were in Zindu, under the emperor's feet, so naturally no one dared to cause trouble. But the sky is high here and the emperor is far away, and there may be danger at any time. Please be more cautious. If you have any differences of opinion, you must listen to our arrangements." "Okay, we will definitely obey the arrangements this time," Luzon responded quickly. He and Jiasu lost their jade pendants, which was a blow, allowing them to see the darkness and danger behind the bustling docks. Everyone continued to walk forward, leaving the dock area, and the street became quieter. But with people coming and going, it looks like an ordinary county town, which makes people feel at ease. Different from the heavy snowfall in the north, the temperature here is the same as in summer, not just hot, but even a little stuffy. Brother Cat is young, and soon he started to cry out that he was hot and thirsty. So, a few people chose a restaurant. Seeing that most of the tables in the front hall were full, they also went in. The master and servant divided 2 tables, each ordering 4 dishes and several bowls of rice. The boy recommended drinking, but Grn refused and rewarded him with a few copper coins. The boy Dion went behind, and Zhengwu followed him on the pretext of having a bad stomach and looking for a toilet. Soon, the food was served in the kitchen, and just as it was placed on the table, Zhengwu came back and nodded with the masters. The Li brothers moved their chopsticks. Lu Zhong and Jiasu saw this. Although they still felt that they were not so careful, they did not say anything. Everyone was eating and listening to the conversations of the diners next to them. It turns out that there is a dragon boat race on the inland river tonight. The so-called inland river is the river channel built from the dock to the city. A main river channel is very wide and branches into numerous small waterways, which are used by local people to travel on weekdays. There is a river outside the back door of many people's houses, with boats tied to them, which is much more convenient than horse-drawn carriages. There were 2 wealthy businessmen in the city who were feuding over something unknown. They agreed that their family's dragon boat team would compete in the battle, and whoever won would get the prize. Such a lively event, naturally everyone flocks to it. The Grn brothers were also tempted, and Lu Zhong and Jiasu were even more interested in joining in the fun. So, after eating, they went straight to the inland river, chose a location with the best view, and then booked 2 riverview rooms and 2 ordinary rooms nearby. Brother Cat was worried about the excitement at night, so he said, "Brother, let's go buy some delicious food and watch while we eat at night." Grn rubbed his brother's hair and agreed. The sun outside has just set in the west. It takes a long time to come out, so naturally you can't stay in the room until night. So they packed up and went out again. There was a large market not far away. Some vendors were selling local specialties such as fried squid rings and shrimp cakes, and everyone rushed there. Food that is freshly cooked is always the best. Even though they had finished lunch, Grn and others couldn't help but eat a lot around the stall. Grn took out a silver bean from his belt, and just as he was about to pay, Jiasu had already pulled out his money bag, took a piece of silver and threw it to the stall owner, and packed a lot more. When he turned around, he saw that the Li brothers had bad expressions, and then he remembered what he had promised, and quickly stuffed the money bag back. "I'm sorry, I was so happy about eating that I forgot about it." Grn and others could not say anything. Grn could only say, "Brother Jia has spent money." A few people continued to walk into the market. Some people were performing arts, which was very lively. Brother Li grabbed Brother Cat and was about to go over, but someone made a move first and grabbed the hem of Jiasu's gown. Jiasu was startled, and when he looked down, he saw a woman in a white dress kneeling on the roadside. She was 16 or 17 years old, with a haggard expression, but she could not hide her good looks. His big eyes were filled with tears, and he was about to cry, which was extremely pitiful. Jiasu was about to get angry, but when he saw this, he stopped his anger and asked, "Girl, why are you holding me back?" The girl let go of her hand. Ying bent down and kowtowed, revealing the broken straw mat tube behind her. There is nothing visible on the top of the tube, but a pair of black feet peek out from the end. Everyone was startled and took 2 steps back. The girl also shed tears and choked with sobs and said, "Son, the little girl and her father took refuge with relatives and friends, and when they came here, they were stolen and taken care of by evil people. My father died of illness in anger. The little girl is unable to bury her father, so she can only kneel here, and sell herself to bury her father." After saying that, she kowtowed again, and her tears quickly wet the bluestone floor in front of her. Jiasu was a little at a loss. The family had been strictly controlled before. Not only did his concubines share the same room, he didn't even have any maids. All the food, clothing, housing, and transportation were taken care of by the young man and his mother-in-law. At this moment, I was suddenly troubled by such a beautiful and young girl crying, and I really didn't know what to do. He glanced at Luzon and the Lee brothers and saw that they were silent, so he could only bite the bullet and said, "Girl, we are passing by too, I wonder if I can help you." The girl wiped away her tears, her eyelashes were moist, she blinked lightly, and there was a hint of charm in the corners of her eyes and eyebrows. The young master is away from home, so he must not have many people to serve him. As long as the young master gives the young lady 10 taels of silver and buries her father, the young lady is willing to follow the young master and become a slave or maid, whatever the young master arranges. After saying that, she lowered her head shyly, revealing a section of her white neck, which was particularly dazzling in the sun. Jiesu swallowed subconsciously. He squeezed the purse in his sleeve pocket and packed 20 or 30 taels of silver, which was not enough. "Girl, I can give you 10 taels of silver to bury your father, but I don't lack slaves. After you bury your father, you can continue to visit your relatives." The woman didn't wait to finish listening, and started crying again. "I know that I can't catch the attention of the young master with my appearance like a willow tree. You don't have to take me in, but please let him know where you live. I want to give him some money after burying my father kowtow." Jiesu's forehead was already sweating. The hardest thing to accept is the kindness of a beautiful woman. Hearing that the woman no longer bothered to follow her and just kowtowed to say thank you, he subconsciously told her the name of the inn. As a result, Grn pulled his sleeve and stopped him in time. Luzon watched for a long time and felt something was wrong. He said, "This girl probably wants to bury her father and find a place to live, but we are passing by and can't help. Why don't we give up our seats quickly and let the girl wait for the next person?" After saying that, he was about to take Jiesu and leave. But at some point, 7 or 8 spectators gathered behind them. There were women holding baskets, men with fierce looks, and even old men with grey beards, blocking their retreat. This is the third update. The epidemic has broken out here in Huawa. From now on, I will queue up for nucleic acid tests every day. I can't control the time. I will try my best to make sure the update is at 5 o'clock. If you play for a while, you guys must understand. Wait for me to take it easy. In a few days add more. Hug, huh. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 659. Chapter 659, the torn pants are wrapped around my legs and I can't get rid of them. Hey. People say that rich people are the most heartless. I just found out today that this is true. The burly man spoke first, looking like he was being beaten. The woman carrying the basket also yelled at the top of her lungs, "That's right, you are really evil. This little girl is so pitiful that she wants to sell herself to be buried by her father. You also said you would help, but why did you change your mind at the last minute? Isn't this forcing this little girl to die?" At the market, the most common people are idlers. Especially at this time, women and mothers-in-law buying vegetables from various families, craftsmen after work, etc., heard that there was a commotion here, and they all came together. With a few words, this place has been surrounded by 3 levels inside and 3 outside. Now, if Luzon wanted to drag Jiesu out, it would be even more impossible. Luzon instinctively felt bad and frowned slightly. Jiesu, however, was somewhat bookish and continued to explain to those people, "You have misunderstood. As we were passing by, this girl suddenly grabbed my robe and begged me to buy her for my father's burial. I said I would give her money and let her bury her father and then continue to look for relatives without being a slave to me, but she refused. What he said was true, but the woman holding the basket had squinting eyes and spoke nonsense. Oh, how could there be a wicked person like you who bought someone else's girl and didn't want her to follow her? Then what has become of this girl? She broke her promise. How will she behave in the future? She is a girl and has become yours, and you don't want her. She can't get married. This slave is not a slave, and her innocent body is not her innocent body. How will she live in the future? You said, if you didn't force her to death, what were you doing? The girl in white started to cry at the right moment, mourning so deeply that it made people feel particularly sad. She begged in a low voice, "Oh, sir, my father is dead and I am all alone and don't know where to go. You bought me and helped me bury my father, and I am yours. Please don't think I'm ugly, just accept me. I'm willing to be a cow or a horse to repay the young master for his great kindness. Woo, if the master doesn't want me, I can have no choice but to follow my father." After she finished speaking, she knocked her head to the ground and cried even more miserably. At this time, the white-bearded old man spoke, as if persuading Jiesu, "Master, saving one life is worse than building a 7-level pagoda. I see that you are also born into a wealthy family. There should be no shortage of slaves like this in your family. How about you, just give her a place to stay. Even if the young master takes her away temporarily, it will be fine when he finds a suitable place and then puts her down." The people watching the excitement from the back are not afraid of serious trouble at all. Seeing the frail and beautiful woman kneeling on the ground, the rich and handsome Jiesu, who was sweating anxiously, started to boo and started shouting. How many bowls of rice can a woman eat, and how many bowls of rice can she receive at home? That's right, if you don't want it, just give it to me. It just so happens that I don't have a wife. No, I don't have a wife either, so give it to me and keep the quilt warm at night. It's beautiful just thinking about it. The people spoke more and more unpleasantly, which made the woman shrink her shoulders and cry more and more sadly. The beads of sweat on Jiesu's forehead were pattering down. This situation is much more difficult than writing an article. He has been reading since he was a child, and has as many as 800 books, if not 1,000, but none of them tells him how to deal with such a situation. Luzong's face was dark. Although he didn't know what was wrong, he vaguely guessed that they had fallen into a trap and were now being roasted on the fire. If you don't care about this woman, then you will force her to die. If they take this woman with them, it is obvious that this woman is a troublesome person, and they don't know the root cause. Maybe there will be even greater disasters waiting for them in the future. He was upset and irritable for a moment, and wanted to summon his followers to wipe out all the evil people who plotted against him. But his reason told him that he couldn't do this. After weighing it again and again, he looked at the 3 brothers of the Li family and asked in a low voice, "Brother Li, what should I do?" Jiaran has been watching with his younger brothers, and also had some discussions in low voices. Seeing Luzong asking for help, he took a step forward, held up his hands and said to everyone, "Dear fellow villagers, this is our first time coming to the treasure land. As soon as we walked to the market, my friend was suddenly pulled away. Robe. It stands to reason that my friend has a kind heart. He heard that this girl was in trouble and was willing to help with money. This is a good talk no matter what, isn't it?" Everyone nodded. This is correct. These days, everyone is cleaning up their own troubles and is willing to donate generously. There are really not many people who help others. Jiaran changed the subject and added, "But this girl, after receiving help, not only did not rush to bury her father, nor was she worried about the stench of his father's body, but she pestered my friend and insisted on following her. This is a bit strange." He then looked at the old men and women and asked, "We didn't speak loudly here, but you suddenly appeared. When you came up, you said that we were desperate to save you, and you kept forcing us to take this girl with us. Can I ask, do you know this girl? Otherwise, why would you be so ignorant? Nonsense, the woman scolded, angrily, we are just passing by, we just can't stand it. If you say a few more words, why do you think I'm a bad person? That's right, who knows you, it's like we're plotting against you, the man also said in a low voice, very disdainful. The old man sighed and shook his head, looking disappointed, the world is deteriorating. Nowadays, good people can't do anything good, and they can't even say fair words. Seeing this, the people on the periphery were deceived and shouted. If you don't want to save people, forget it, but don't accuse them unjustly. That's right, the folks in our hometown are all good people, but we don't have those twists and turns. Grn did not want to argue with them, so he continued, well, since the villagers are willing to vouch for these people, let us believe that they have nothing to do with this girl. But my friend's family is an official, and not everyone can be taken as a slave. Since this girl is wholeheartedly following her, is it okay if we ask a few questions? Everyone looked at each other and said nothing. Grn didn't really want to wait for their permission. He turned to the woman and asked, you said that you and your father were in trouble, your money was stolen by a thief, and your father died of illness for many days, right? The girl nodded and wanted to speak, but Grn had already taken the lead. Then tell me, your father's exposed feet are so dirty, which shows that he suffered before his death. But the skirt you are wearing is made of fine jade silk, and your hands and face are not dirty at all. It is obvious that you are in good health, and you don't look like you are in distress at all. The woman lowered her head, her eyes rolled around, her hands subconsciously pulled her sleeves, and said, my father loves me very much, and he is not willing to let me suffer even if I am in trouble. Okay, even if your father loves you. But if you send Yunling's dress to a shop, you can still get 5 taels of silver, which is enough to buy a coffin. Why do you want to sell your body to bury your father? Grn asked reluctantly. The woman became more and more panicked and whispered, I only have this set of clothes. If it is pawned, I have nothing to replace it with. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 660. Chapter 660, The Sword of Yun Dan Feng Cheng. Your dress looks 90% new and very clean. It's obviously new today. So what were you wearing so many days ago? Grn sneered. He said mockingly, girl, if you lie again, you must remember to take care of such details. Besides, if her father is really dead, no daughter would have the heart to paint her eyebrows or apply such bright red lipstick. The woman seemed to be anxious after being forced to question her. She suddenly raised her head and looked at Grn fiercely. But this also allowed everyone to see her more clearly. As expected, I drew my eyebrows, applied lipstick and even applied powder, so my face and neck looked whiter. Grn didn't say anything before, and everyone didn't feel it either. They just felt that the woman was beautiful and pitiful. Looking at it now, it's really weird everywhere. When the father of a family dies, the daughter sells herself to bury her father. This is not a matter of embarrassment and numbness. The one in front of me, dressed up and paired with a white dress, looks even prettier. This is not asking for charity, but, it's more like, seducing a man. You're not really a liar, are you? I'm not a liar, but I also have no good intentions. It's true that I should bury my father and find myself a rich man. Her father is so miserable, he is actually dead and still being used by his unfilial daughter. Everyone on the periphery was talking quietly, and they were all excitedly speculating about the woman's purpose. Their feet seemed to be rooted to the ground, not moving at all, and they were determined to see the show through to the end. Grn saw that the woman kept exchanging glances with the man and the old man, and he became more and more certain that they were in the same group. So, he said, "Girl, let's talk about it, it's over. We won't embarrass you, and you shouldn't be obsessed with it. You continue to wait for your destined person, and we are on our way." With that said, he was about to leave with Jiasu, Luzon, and others. But the woman suddenly became violent, pounced forward and pulled Jiasu's robe again, and began to cry, "Sir, you said you wanted to bury my father for me, you can't just keep your word. This is a failure of commitment, and you think of asking for money again." Jiasu was extremely embarrassed. He was afraid that his robe would be ripped open, so he touched his purse and was about to throw it out. Luzon was sober for the first time, so he quickly stopped him. These people are obviously scoundrels. If you give them money, they will treat them more like fat sheep and want to kill them all. For some reason, he suddenly remembered what Brother Cat said. If you don't reveal your wealth, you will be slaughtered if you reveal it. They actually don't have a child yet, so they are sober. But if you don't give me any money, it's obvious that you can't do any good today. Just when she was feeling worried, the corpse in the straw mat behind the woman suddenly screamed and sat up suddenly. Everyone was so frightened that their hair stood up. Is this a corpse scam? Some people want to run, but their legs are weak and they can't take a single step. At this time, Brother Lee pulled out the dagger from the corpse's foot and kicked the straw mat at the same time. The straw mat rolled away, revealing the middle-aged man inside, holding his feet and screaming in pain. Blood flowed down his fingers, and bright red drops were everywhere. Brother Lee wiped his dagger and smiled faintly at everyone. This man can still bleed. He is obviously alive. There is no need to be buried. Everyone swallowed subconsciously, and their legs became inexplicably softer. Teenagers are still at a naughty age when they go to the mountains to dig out bird eggs and go down to the rivers to catch fish. The young man in front of me dared to take out a dagger and hurt someone. After seeing the blood, he remained so calm. Even Jiasu and Luzong's expressions changed, and the toes in their shoes subconsciously buckled the soles. The woman in white screamed and rushed towards the injured man, shouting, "Husband, husband, how are you?" Everyone could hear clearly that this was not selling one's body to bury her father, this was a husband and wife conspiring to cheat money. The Mandarin duck thief. Luzon immediately pulled Jiasu and stood next to Jiren. The old men, women, and men, with pale faces, subconsciously figured out that something was wrong with them and wanted to step forward to avenge their accomplices. It was a pity that Zhengwu and the others were quicker than them. They drew out their daggers from their waists and blocked them away. Seeing that they were not successful in their deception, Jiren wanted to be tough, but he became cold-faced and scolded, "You can't mess with anyone who is shameless, and you can't show your tricks when you travel around the world. I don't understand, it's time to dig out these eyes. We dare to go out and move around, how can we not have any support? I am treating you as a joke today, let's just smile and spare your lives, why don't you get out? If it dares to get into our hands again, a post will be sent to the government office to ensure that not one of you is left alive, and that you will all be reunited in the hall of hell." Although he was dressed in ordinary clothes, everyone could clearly see the righteousness in his eyebrows at this moment. Official status? Are these young gentlemen all from official families? Otherwise, ordinary merchants and wealthy households would not be able to cultivate such a magnanimous attitude. The men and old men suddenly hesitated. When they saw the middle-aged man's feet bleeding, they stamped their feet angrily, pulled the woman, carried the middle-aged man, and ran away quickly. After a long while, everyone onlookers exploded. "Oh, what a bunch of liars. It must be, I saw it just now. I know how to brag, you can see why I'm just saying it now. I'm stupid, these people obviously have some bad intentions, I dare say it." While everyone was discussing, they quietly looked at Jiren and the others. Jiren was impatient to listen to their afterthoughts, so he took his younger brother, Luzon, and Jiasu and hurried back to the inn. Having been entangled for so long, the sun has set in the west and it is already dusk. Finally, we entered the room. There were no outsiders. Everyone sat at the table, each holding a bowl of tea. They didn't speak for a long time. In the end, it was Jiasu who spoke first. "Brother Li, thank you so much for just now. If it hadn't been for your brothers to come to the rescue, I would have been in trouble today." Luzon also said, "Yeah, I didn't expect these charlatans to be so rampant. They sold themselves to bury their fathers, and they were all fake." Having said that, he remembered Jiaran's heroic appearance just now, and asked further, "Brother Li, where did you learn some Jianghu dialect? Is there a Jianghu person in your family?" Jiaran smiled bitterly and shook his head, "I don't have any Jianghu people in my family. I just learned a few words before I went out. I can bluff people at the critical moment. If I say a few more words, I'm afraid the secret will be exposed." Brother Cat has been watching the fun just now. Perhaps because his brother is by his side, he is not afraid at all. At this moment, he looked at Jiasu with a smile and said, "Brother Jia is so stupid. Article 3 of the Jianghu Safety Manual, selling one's body to bury one's father, is to make a fortune. I don't know such a simple thing. You can't even see the flaws in that woman's body out." "Brother Cat," Jiaran scolded his younger brother, not wanting him to laugh at Jiasu. "I didn't want Jiasu, but I wasn't angry. Instead, I stood up and saluted Brother Cat. There is no priority in learning, and the master is the teacher. Little brother, I really learned a lesson today. From now on, little brother, please give me some advice. I just don't know what this Jianghu Safety Manual is. Is it a book? Can we borrow it?" Luzon also said quickly, "Yes, little brother has said it several times. I am really curious." He looked at Jiaran and said, "Brother Li, can you lend it to us so that we can learn this valuable experience when we are away from home?" Of course, we also know that it is a bit presumptuous to say this. I still have a copy of the copybook in my house in Zindu. When I get back, I will definitely give it to Brother Li to copy and study. How about it? End of this chapter.